All right. Now, I don't plan on being too long on this video, but I had to deal with this. This is Tuesday. It is around 8 p.m. my time, so it's late in the day. I'm just now getting around to listening to other people's content. And as I listened to this, I had to speak on it. First of all, I want to speak on this guy's comments right here. First of all, this guy is not FBA. He is a tether. So he's not qualified for reparations anyway. I have no idea. Well, I do know why they keep trying to talk to immigrants about black Americans receiving reparations. These people have nothing to do with our reparations. So why do you keep bringing them onto these shows? You're doing this trying to get them to pose as black Americans who disagree. This ain't gonna work.
The slavery would, quote, only divide the country further. And you thought it would insult black Americans by putting a price.
Said reparations would divide the country further. But other people's reparations isn't dividing them from everybody else. And let me tell you something. If someone gets something that's owed to them, it's irrelevant what other people think. Don't nobody care who don't like us receiving what we're owed. Nobody cares. So I don't even know why that's a talking point. And anybody who does care is too dumb for me to care about whether or not they care.
On the suffering as well, and would make black Americans like yourself.
Put a price on the suffering? Fool, this ain't no reparations for no suffering. This is reparations for a debt created. This is purely business. Stop trying to turn this into an emotional roller coaster. Stop thinking that black Americans are talking about reparations for suffering. Our ancestors, put in work that built a country that's today still functional. That's the reparations claim. Now, we're going to get deeper into this.
You thought it would insult black Americans by putting a price on the suffering as well, and would make black Americans like yourself victims without their consent.
Would make black Americans like yourself victims without their consent. This guy is not a black American. And me receiving reparations, that's not me claiming to be a victim. What are you talking about? It has nothing to do with victimhood at all. What is this claiming to be a victim? I'm not a victim. The hell are you? Don't nobody care what you think you are. You an immigrant, you from Eritrea or somewhere with your funny looking beard and mustache. Stop pulling these people on these shows acting like representatives for us. Okay?
I hope I captured that correctly, but you take it further. Make your case against.
So let me just make a distinction off the bat. I support reparations for redlining, right? Because there are many victims of redlining that are still with us. They're still alive.
Yeah, like and Puerto Ricans can be included in that. Yeah, so yeah, he includes it as long as.
Now wait a minute. Not meaning to cut Tariq off. Listen. How many generations of people were enslaved where they received nothing? You follow? Huh? Let's say 5 generations passed. And in the 6th generation, they were freed. Just hypothetically speaking. You know, it seems like people are having a real hard time understanding this simple concept. And it's very simple. 5 generations passed, and none of those 5 ancestors were granted reparations. That means you're behind on the reparations. That's 5 different people who worked their entire life and was not paid. That means by the time you free the 6th generation, you're behind 5 generations. And that is a debt that doesn't vanish simply because I was not born into slavery. I was born into this world from an enslaved ancestry. And that ancestry, that enslaved ancestry, colors my financial position in this world more than anything else. So save your lectures.
His lineage can be included. Yeah, he's for it if they can weasel themselves into it. No, nigga.
And Cornell, all the examples of successful reparations for other groups that you highlighted were examples of reparations given to directly the victims of these human rights abuses in their lifetimes or their immediate family members.
No, because you have Native American tribes right now still getting forms of reparations. So yeah, that argument is dead. You have people from the Holocaust still getting checks. They survived and some of their descendants survived and they get checks from that. You get a whole bunch of different groups of people whose descendants get direct payments, particularly the Native American tribes. So yeah, kill that argument.
Now look at how many people currently receive reparations but were never personally enslaved or wronged. They're receiving reparations for what their ancestors went through. So this is a show of desperation, pulling people on these shows like this guy to spew these very weak talking points. Why would you prepared to come on to a news broadcast to say that? How easy that's debunked? What are you talking about? Even the show host had to remind this person right here. Like, what are you talking about? The Jews, they're still receiving reparations. The Indians are still receiving what are you talking about? Oh, well, in my opinion.
That's why I support reparations for redlining paid directly to the victims as they're doing in Evanston outside of Chicago.
That's not, no. That's not real reparations. That's like some kind of housing finesse. That's not reparations.
Make a distinction between that and reparations for slavery, which ended in...
Listen, man. This era, this modern era, y'all live in a very weak, this is a weak era. Back when I was coming up, man, a person like this dude, he would get caught somewhere. Some dudes would catch this dude. They would have been waiting for him when he came out of this building, this office building, wherever he at right now. That is how out of line this guy is. Like, wow. You can't go to their country, getting on their news broadcast shows, telling any group, any local native group that they don't deserve nothing. Your head will be on a stake somewhere. But these disgusting fools, they think they can come over here and disrespect us like that because they figure the thing to do is to align yourself with the white racists in order to get in good with America as a society. This is how a lot of these immigrants think. The best way to be accepted in American mainstream society is to co-sign with white racist ideologies. That's all it is.
1865. I know of no examples where groups are getting reparations for historical crimes that are over 150 years old.
Native Americans!
Like, what is this dude even talking about? Like, wow, this is the extent of your intelligent class? This is the best thing you could throw into this show? Pathetic, man.
The red Native Americans, fool. What are you talking about? Red Native Americans.
And unfortunately, the opportunity was tragically missed to pay it to the slaves themselves or their immediate families.
No, the opportunity was not tragically missed. That's the whole point in giving reparations to the generations alive right now. This ain't rocket science. That's compensation for the several generations that were not paid at all. Do you understand that? In Black America, economically, financially, would be much better off today if our ancestors benefited financially from their labor. There ain't no way to weasel out of that. There ain't no storyline, no talking point. There's no narrative you can come up with to debunk that. None. So just save it. A lot of these people, they think black Americans have such a low IQ that you can run any type of jargon on them. Oh, these Negroes, you can say anything, just use long words and you'll scare them. Right? They'll submit to whatever you're talking about. I don't think so. I don't think so. I know not.
But claims like this time out.
No, it hasn't been missed. No. No.
This is what I'm talking about. Claims like who are you to even say something like that? A foreigner, an anchor baby. Again, even as an anchor baby, we could not go over to no Ghana, no Ethiopia. We can go to no foreign country, China. Get up on a local news broadcast and start talking about how a local native group don't deserve reparations. A native group that was where their ancestors for several generations was enslaved. Are you kidding? We wouldn't make it out of China or wherever we are running our mouth like that.
The legacy of slavery, which he laid out.
The depth of disrespect. Let me tell you, black Americans are public enemy number one. If you remove black Americans from this country, this government would be much happier. Let's just put it all out on the table. This governing body would let out a sigh of relief if black Americans were to vanish right now. So what they're doing, what I suspect they're doing, is slowly trying to replace black Americans. And there's nothing new about that. They tried to replace, I think it was the Haitians. Tried to replace them too. Several groups have already been replaced. Where are the native Egyptians right now? They have all been replaced. And that's why I said black Americans on the same path of not only the ancient Egyptians, but several other groups. You've even had some groups that were physically wiped out. And I suspect that there is your own people within your government, within our government, they're literally trying to erase black Americans' bloodline. They're not only trying to replace black Americans, they're trying to exterminate black Americans' bloodline. Bloodline. Now, wait a minute. Make sure y'all looking at the same thing I'm looking at. Yes. Now, something else I want to... Wait a minute. Because this idiot... The talk show host had to enlighten this idiot.
I support in terms of addressing the legacy of slavery. That's what I feel is the wisest path forward for this country.
Let me follow up a little bit, Coleman, because it is interesting that there are some forms of specific areas where you believe a reparation of sorts should be put there. How do you distinguish Jim Crow? And what is the right amount of time? And I say that Germany is still paying reparations.
How do you distinguish Jim Crow? You know, slavery is bad enough. To follow that up with black code laws, Jim Crow laws, to make sure black America, their economic growth stays limited. Even if you're just talking about slavery, understand black Americans in this country have been enslaved longer than they've been free. A lot of people love to conveniently forget that. You like to talk about how for 150 years we've been free. Well, black Americans were enslaved longer than that. So don't try to talk as if that enslavement, that period of enslavement, did not have a monstrous impact negatively on black Americans economically. You out of your mind. And it lingers to this day. Much of the wealth of this country in several different businesses, some organizations started during slavery. They're still flourishing today, still benefiting off that initial push.
To now descendants of Holocaust victims.
Right.
So he had to remind this idiot, look at him, that there are descendants receiving reparations today. Notice how people love to conveniently forget things when it comes to black Americans. And it's to the point where these people, like this guy, are just liars. Which is why I don't think there's any benefit in even talking or listening to people like this. When you are so dishonest, you ignore something as blatant as slavery. Why do you think black Americans were promised 40 acres and a mule? That was for a reason. It's because they understood. They've understood good and well. We have robbed a people of multiple generations of wealth, growth, development, everything. And they've caused a lot more damage to black Americans, socially and psychologically. A lot of damage. Some of it I suspect is irreversible. So the debt can't be measured. It's not about putting a price tag on it. You know, no price is high enough. Okay, we get that. You're not stupid. But that don't mean that they don't receive nothing. Well, since you can't put a price tag on what your ancestors went through, we're just not going to give you nothing. No, fool, what is you talking about? No, write that check. Just because you can't write a check big enough to cover the crime you committed, don't mean I'm not owed that check. What kind of conversation you trying to have? We got to cut these goofy conversations off before they even get started. Let's not even engage with these people in this nonsense. Foolishness. Now, the other thing I want to deal with is these fake attacks on Asians. These fraudulent attacks on Asians that have been put on black Americans. And I'm telling black America right now, you are being targeted by your government, by people within the government. You're being targeted by several people within the government. They're literally trying to destroy you, to wipe you clean off this planet. You don't do stuff like this to any group of people unless you are very well absorbed into destroying them. Listen to this.
New York, this stuff is orchestrated by the
Wait a minute.
there, man.
Look at this.
This just came out recently. Ex-NYPD detective accused of helping robbers target Asian business owners.
Ex-NYPD detective. This wasn't no street cop. This was a detective. And he's an ex-detective. Probably retired several years. If he's involved in stuff like this, anybody and everybody is involved in stuff like this. Helping robbers to target Asian American business owners, orchestrating the robbery of Asian American business owners. The source, right there in our governing body. I was telling people back then, black Americans don't sit around. We don't even be thinking about Asians. What are you talking about? I've never been around a black person and we've talked about Asians. We've never said nothing, literally nothing about them at all. The most we said about Asians is we've talked about Asian girls being cute. That's the only thing I can remember from my own personal experience. I'll be sitting around talking about no Asians. But boy, there was a lot of people who swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, it's the blacks. They're attacking Asians. Black on Asian hate. Get out of here. These were paid actors. NYPD detective took bribes to help those robbers not only target Asian American businesses, but to avoid being arrested. And that's why all these funny robbers, these people who would be on camera mugging Asians, they would wear these loud colors in these funny looking outfits. Look at this dude. What does he have on? A leather Michael Jackson Beat It jacket, a bright pink hoodie, some gaudy silver. Who wears silver like that? And a cowboy hat. Really? If there are people within the government carrying things like this out, trust me, Black America is public enemy number one. Reparations is not only necessary for that reason, but also for Black Americans to create their own state. Black Americans, listen, it's either create your own state or slowly perish. It's as simple as that. There's just too many bad apples in high places for you to survive this one. Don't end up like several previous groups who have gone extinct. You know how many, speaking of Taino Indians, we can't count how many groups, ethnic groups, have gone extinct. Many of them have. But for some reason, Black Americans, we think we're different. No, in fact, we have the exact type of culture to drive us into extinction. I will get into that on another video. I just thought this was enlightening, and I wanted to give my 2 cents, because I've been saying this for the longest as well. These fake attacks on Asians, nonsense. Nobody better to tell you that than Black Americans themselves. I don't want to hear from none of these immigrants that you done brought over here from somewhere. That is all for this live stream. I will see you on the next.